Hornbill interview and campaign of Egun Chibai to Nayo Olympic Emmy Award winning journalist Al Jazeera Hilal Vice international publicity Hilale media Tontoma Panastana La Makepeace Emmy Mintain here Chong Nun Zozam here. Hello Zozam.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for the time. Today interview di hile hama question kang do di hia na le ma hi ka ma haum lo chen hi hama communication khat ve wing boy di hama ham te kang translate gel ni ke ham te kang translate gel di hama no thesin dia ama sa pen sta bang phat phanei pe jin cho pa thu kan sei na ki pa hoin Emmy award winning journalist chi hi na bai data mu the ya ipi documentary na bolwa bang documentary na bolu bang story na bolwa tami Emmy award na mu aban le Emmy award chi ipi ham.
So this is an award that is given out at the regional level. So Emmy award is like otherwise something that we know, which is given out for television shows and episodes and miniseries and of course for films. But they also have in the US they have these regional Emmys where documentaries and productions that are done at school and college levels, those are also awarded. So I did this documentary as a part of Arizona State University's Walter Cronkite School, where I was there for 2 semesters basically as a Fulbright Fellow. And documentary was looking at the environmental impact of these shipping containers that were placed along the border, US-Mexico border. The politics out there is very similar in the sense that, there is all this paranoia and politics around immigration and infiltration across the border. So there's one particular governor of the state, now the former governor, had placed a shipping container as a political stunt to try and, prevent more people from coming in. But in turn, it damaged the environment and it blocked the animal corridor because there's a lot of animal and wildlife inhabitation around the US-Mexico border. So, with the point we were trying to make is that animals and, wildlife and ecosystem don't really have any nationalities of being Mexican or American or any other nationality. So we should not be impeding on the environment in order to make a political message or something like that, So we were looking at that, and our main focus also was on this environmental group that had protested, the placement of the wall, the shipping container wall, and because of their protests and because of their constant advocacy around this, they managed to get the shipping container wall removed.
Okay. In case anyone is willing to watch the documentary, what's the name of the title and where can we find this particular document which you are working on to win this award, Emmy Award?
You can find it on this website called Yes Magazine. The documentary is called A Wall Runs Through It.
Today, the Zozam te documentary ball here Arizona gampa Mexican border infiltration umlo na ding illegal immigrants umlo na ding hi shipping content chi hi long tunga van po na gol ppt alom pe political stana hi ya kha pen hi hudei lo na chi hi documentary college kaina ana bol na wa hin tami Emmy award amu khaw hiya. Is it in a way similar to what is happening in Moray? How does it affect what comes to your mind when you hear about the free regime movement being shut down? Do you think something similar is going to happen?
I always think that border politics is very similar all across the world. There is, with some nuance, of course, in every region. Every region has its own, realities to it and its own context to it. But it's very unreal to actually make this documentary in the US and then come back home to this conflict that is happening. Drummed around this idea that there's like so much in illegal immigration that has happened here, and we've got so many so-called illegal immigrants living amongst us, and as a result of all this kind of paranoia, not to mention all the people who have died because of or during this conflict, that we've got this the free movement regime is being kind of put to a stop. At least there's deliberation on it, and it's become a poll issue, in fact, this election. And, we're also talking about, fencing the border wall, right? We all know, and I mean, that's something that I can also testify from the US side as well, where I'd seen 30-foot wall as like very hard steel wall. So I mean, here what they'll probably end up putting is like some barbed wire, and that will not stop anyone from coming, first of all. And the context is completely different. Even there, as a part of this documentary, actually, we were looking at some of the indigenous tribes who live there, the Native American tribes. And for the Native American tribes, the US government has made a special arrangement where they can, move freely across the border, because they're Native Americans and the same tribe lives in Mexico and they live in the US. So even the US government has made those kind of accommodations for the Native American tribes. So it behooves the Indian government to also do something of the sort and to have the free movement regime in place, because we've been living across the border in Myanmar and in India, in both places, and we've had this relationship for a really long time. Our relationship and our existence predates, the formation of the Indian Union and the creation of the border.
To document this particular document, which is Arizona border mo. Tami na bol na diun hun bang tan lurei koi bang na chikiti ma buai tami award winning dinga competition ai mi bang za bang tel why you all are specifically interested in this particular project?
I think for me, as a Fulbright fellow, even when I was applying for this fellowship, I was very clear, because I know that this fellowship was based in Arizona State University. So I was very clear that I wanted to go and study the border issues there and the border politics. I'd already been doing quite a bit of work around this whole idea of illegal immigration and citizenship politics actually in Assam, because Assam is where the first ever, National Register of Citizens happened. It was published in 2019, so I was there covering all these developments, right? So the natural next step for me was to also go and see in other places, let's say like the US, where border again forms a very big part of the the local politics, and it becomes part of the national politics also. So even in the election this year, this border infiltration is a very, very huge issue. Like, it's going to be, it might become the ultimate sort of, reason why Biden government or the Democrats might go out of power. So for me, it was always clear that I wanted to go and work in along the border and, go and observe what's happening out there. My teammates are also actually, none of them are Americans. They were also, one is from Armenia, and interestingly enough, another one was from Mexico. So the one who was doing, both of them were doing most of the shooting. I did a lot of the direction and the production. So both of them also had their own stakes in it, because, they also are foreign nationals. And we all in our own regions and our own countries have these sensitive border issues. So I think we were all very invested in this subject personally and professionally.
Emmy award-winning documentary na ball ban mo. Beside this, Al Jazeera, hilole BBC, hilole News International Publicity na set dante freelancer na set mo hilo playlist wa mo. How do you work? How hilala bang article na nasut niyo kanang gente.
It's a very, very, well, actually, I don't know how to quite explain this, but it's a very, it's a very difficult life as well. Of course, for any journalist, it's always a, constant struggle. We're always on the hunt for stories. But as a freelance journalist, I think that struggle is a bit more amplified, because you not only have to look for stories, you also have to look for publications that will carry the story. Every publication is different. Every publication's agenda is different. Every publication's politics is different. One story may work for Al Jazeera, another story will not work for Al Jazeera, and similarly for other CNN, BBC, Vice. So sometimes, whatever, when God is generous, I suppose, then the assignments come directly to me, it lands in my lap, and I just have to kind of do my job and execute the project. But a lot of times I myself have to write the proposal, make a pitch, send it to the publication, and kind of often also actually, because a lot of projects require a lot of money investment, I cannot always put my money into this, so that's why I have to apply for even grants. So I work in I do some amount of research work, some amount of communications work as well, to kind of keep my freelance career going, because only through journalism it's not possible to make enough money to survive. So it has to be everything, like commissions and pitching a lot of projects and a lot of stories, as well as, of course, doing other research work that comes, my way.
Human rights lampang no nasta panalachi ki thu ki za Manipur human rights nasa thank you violate ai tol ki at pian nu mei ten kira parade bana life a hilo le tunai mama zong hi volunteer ni mo ata some mutilated ta ho tung tang chin hi Twitter ra nasa ta warrior na pangchi thu ka za mo hu lo adang what are the sorts of steps that how you try to raise all these human rights issues?
I mean, the thing is that with human rights issues, I mean, the Twitter is only a very limited platform. I mean, I mostly try to use Twitter to, reach out to more wider media, wider publications, because I'm only a single journalist, so obviously I cannot do everything. So I try to inform more people about what's going on here, things that they may not know, that the other mainstream media, or for that matter the legacy media, we know that in Manipur most of the media is controlled from Imphal, so a lot of news don't get out. So that's how I feel like Twitter comes as a very useful tool. But again, I would say that Twitter is a very limited tool. Like it's not enough to just raise these issues on Twitter. I really have to do a lot of the legwork, reporting wise. I have to really speak to a lot of sources, get documents, get proof, get evidence, and establish that evidence in a reputed media platform to be able to kind of also somewhere persuade and convince the audience that what we are suffering is not just simply something that is part of a narrative. It is actually the reality, it's the truth. So, to establish that truth, it requires like often months and months of hard work and a lot of verification.
Tutung boy na thua is journalism mo. Bang channel reporters na napikai Al Jazeera na piakar kana mo YouTube link kana edai la mo. Hey koi channel ai koi na kitwa pikai issue te raise na dingin. It's all there on YouTube, I would say, for the most part, really. So, yeah, I mean, other than that, I would say you'd find most of my work on YouTube, a lot of different publications and all of that. So it's everywhere. It's not one particular channel, everywhere. Toy na Fulbright scholarship na tam na zoy tamo bangay na career plan le tulay ta bang na ball hey lang America na lai mo ilo gati be as a freelance journalist. Ana sep na lai mo na career plan bang
Oh, that's a very difficult question to answer. I think it's always getting, how do I say? I'm also often going with the flow. I do keep some plans, and I do make some plans for the future in terms of seeing, what are the possible ways that I can further my career. But I would say that I would want to do more and more international journalism. That's certainly in the cards. I would want to work towards, covering more regions and more areas. While, of course, I know my heart and my commitment to the Northeast region, and to our people, in fact, will always remain. It'll never go out of focus for me. It'll always be there. But I know that my plans also, I know that somewhere my interests also are a bit beyond the Indian borders. I worked in the US, this opportunity I got, and I also got to work on and do quite a bit of reporting in the US apart from this documentary. So I want to do similarly other such work in different parts of the world. So for me, the world's like, I would say, the next big stage.
India ka Modi le BJP te government noya mo media index le research tom ki bol na hin India hi freedom of speech na satain karap ahita fami gwelon BJP ten hi Modi godi media chimaiwa mo media hosting leon dakal som ni leli song hi Modi hi as charismatic leader divine being bang piel project wa tambang kom kala hi mainstream media teng hi sola da hi tai elang issue te cover dan lungki moi na sai to bana elang te ni local media English channel na ngono kinai nailo mo tami tung ta na ngai dan le pan la di dan them kan nang kum the de
Actually, this has been quite a topic of discussion of late because frankly speaking, free speech and press freedom in India is extremely at an all-time low. And we always look at like the big channels like NDTV being taken over by Adani as an indication of it. But, somehow the other, and I mean, the future is not looking very bright, I'll be very honest. But still there are independent media platforms who are still doing the work. Like a lot of in digital publications got together, recently to kind of, unpack all the electoral bonds that came out finally because of the Supreme Court order. So I also feel like similarly, in fact, the responsibility and the last vanguard of journalism is with local media, much like yourself. I mean, of course, apart from serving the local community in the local dialect, it also would be good to have like an English arm to the same channel so that more people in the English media also come to know about it, because frankly, it's not just that mainstream media does not care or that they have a lot of lack of interest. They also don't have budgets anymore. There is no budget. There are very little budgets left to do proper journalism, to do real journalism. So they are increasingly relying on local sources to give them information. So where local media, whether you're paper, whether you're digital, or whether you're a TV channel, if you can step up and provide that information and also broadcast your own information, I think that would be the last vanguard of a free press in India, because you cannot rely anymore on the big media houses to do this.
As a freelancer mo, globetrotter ka daw na ita, khovel gam dang na visit ho ta, gam la nang pe ka chanop na sa thoi ko gadam lang hele landscape hele. How do you see the potential of tourism mo? Mai lang na tourism ding develop di dan idea vel nei thoi potential nei na sa thoi gam.
I mean, there's a lot. There's so much untapped potential. Of course, I know that infrastructure remains a big challenge. But even before this whole conflict started, I remember like already we had more people who were coming to Gelzang and basically to the Khuga Dam, to kind of, come and picnic over the weekends and all of that. Granted, it was largely the local Meitei tourists, but as someone who is also, let's say, I mean, not to say that's a competition, but I also have stayed at Loktak Lake. And I know what the amenities are there, and I think, in fact, if you ask me, I think the Gelzang side is like far more beautiful. It's really very beautiful, and there's so much potential for developing tourism, developing more of our local products, and I feel like it's really incumbent on us. See, I always take the example, I feel like, which is also relevant for us, Southeast Asian countries, right? Look at a country like Thailand or Vietnam and all of that, right? These are not rich countries. These are also countries that are coming out of, a war, or they're coming out of like, years and decades of like, some of the other kind of, democratic handicap. But it's surely because they've developed their tourism that they've been able to be, at least to some extent, self-sufficient. And I feel that's what we can do. I mean, that's what we can especially offer. Like, I know a lot of people who come to Manipur, especially journalists, I guess. Journalists have been coming here to Lamka more of late, of course, for very obvious reasons. But everyone who comes here, they all say that, tribals are so nice. When we come here, tribals, they treat us so nicely. They really like, take care of us really well and all of that. They get a very warm reception. And I feel like that sort of hospitality, that is inbuilt in us, naturally that comes out, should be taken more advantage of, because we have that open-mindedness about us. In fact, much more than people in the valley do. So we should really take advantage of it and try and build that sort of, let us show let us put our best foot forward and let us show the world as well that, what we are capable of, and also which part of Manipur or which part of the world that we inhabit, because people don't know enough about us. That's what is missing. And because people don't know enough about us, they don't end up visiting us unless there's a conflict happening. But conflict should not be the only reason that people come and visit us.
To the last question mo, as a young cookie zo youth mo, khang lai khat sing tang mi khat e cookie zo khang lai khat nahi na movement te physical out khadi leadership te destination mo movement le goal te tun lo kharin zau zel thoi. What is that piece of advice that you want to give to the community leaders? Last message.
I mean, I really feel I'm no one to give any advice to, any of the leaders, because I mean it's a very, very diverse community to kind of manage, and there's so many factions, there's so many. We're clearly very disunited. That I think is everyone knows this, but I think it's really high time. I mean, we did manage to make something like the ITLF, the Indigenous Tribal Leaders Forum, this time. And even despite that, we've had a lot of cracks and a lot of, let's say, moments in this movement where it's really sort of not reflected very well on us. And I think it's important for us to reflect on those moments, like why are we allowing outsiders, why are we allowing basically ourselves to be divided on issues that are very, very minuscule really at this point of time. I mean, I've often said this, that not that I have said this, but I think it's something that's very well known. All the other communities, let's say if you look at like Naga Hona, they don't even have a common language, right? They don't even have a common language. I mean, the Nagaland Naga speak to each other in Nagamese, which is again really a Creole version of Assamese. It's an external import. Again, the Manipur Naga speak to each other in Meiteilon, right? We actually as a community can speak to each other in our own respective dialects. A Mar person can speak to a Paite person, and can speak to a Thado person, can speak to a Simte person, and all of them, they don't need to even necessarily adapt to each other's language. They can just understand each other naturally. But despite this linguistic barrier not remaining or not standing in between us, we seem to have so many more barriers. And that's something that is worthwhile reflecting, why. Because as a community, at the end of the day, we are being targeted, whether we like it or not, we are being targeted as Kuki-Zou. And whether you identify under this nomenclature, whether you identify under this label is honestly really secondary at this point. The fact is that you are being targeted as a tribal. That's what you need to really, really keep in mind. And, and I feel like it's important to use this moment, because we've already suffered a lot, and the road ahead also seems extremely rocky, but we need to capitalize on this moment where we are being targeted as tribals to also sort of build solidarity across other communities. I mean, we need not be looking at, it's not the time to see ourselves or to kind of pull up our nationalism as being either Kuki, Thado, Zomi, Paite, Mar, Simte, something, whatever else, it's the time to build our tribal solidarity, and I wish to see that happening.
Kipo hoi ma wain zam taba interview ng PSGN pasien in Guangzhou tau zel hele career he is still very young, long way to go. The gamle na ma dia voicing le thidile international award tamping la tau zel in dei sana kang la ne yo.
Oh, thanks Kipo me ha.
Tu le interview en tu te zo sia hi at the end sing tang do na sa ham na thailo khana mai thei ding wa hina le English thei te adin hi tam interview hi dinga. Tu nia I hin ho pi le zo sam hi le America gama hi scholarship mo journalism sila hi to na avasil na zo hi Emmy award ki local journalism hi lo le documentary hoi zen hi award la to mi ko lo international le khabuton tom le news la gel tu le freelance na se ma hi tu nei ho pi pa din hi pat tom nge di king ta ngai dan te opinion section ang gen ne wa tu ne interview tam tra so ta te so sin pa to kang gen hi